Hello, everyone. Welcome to today's We Don't Use AI the Same Way. We're going to do a slightly different format than I would normally go for these sessions because basically one of the questions that I have keep coming up is how do AI agents work? Why are they different than anything else that you've seen from an AI perspective? And because this is such a prominent thing in people's minds at the moment, I wanted to create an environment, a simulation that helps you to understand the capability of agents, how they function, where they're going to fit into your organization. So the whole point of these sessions today is, yes, to do a demonstration, but if anyone has any questions, any comments, any thoughts, anything they want to know as they go along, or just to let us know how the webinar is going, then do feel free to put that in the comments. We are live on LinkedIn, YouTube, Instagram, and TikTok. So feel free to put those comments in where you are visible. And yeah, I'd love to kind of find out a little bit more about where you're from and what kind of work you're doing at the moment. So essentially, most people at the moment are used to, when it comes to AI, using a chatbot interface. So it's very 2023, 2024, even 2025. Most people are used to being able to go onto an application. They have a chat box bit in the middle where it goes, hey, what do you want? And you use it kind of like a Google search in the sense of you type in what you're asking for and it gives you a response back with that information. And that's using large language models to essentially generate a response. So all of these things work based on the statistically probable outcomes. You give it an input, it gives you an output. Now, that is not the extent of what AI is capable of doing, and particularly not when it comes to 2026. There is a lot more capability of our AI models now to do what we call agents, which essentially are like having little AI employees in your organization that go around doing tasks, doing jobs for your organization. And what I wanted to do is demonstrate that in terms of being able to look at it very practically on our demo screen over here. But I'm going to give you a bit of a visualization as well for being able to understand some of those differences that we have there. So if we were looking at our AI agents, what you'd be seeing is essentially, your AI assistants, which is what most people are used to utilizing, your Copilot, your ChatGPT. What happens is you have a query, you give it a task, it decides what it wants to do, it gives you a response, and then that's what you take away from it. The difference is when it comes to our agents is you give them a query, they plan and decide how they're going to go and achieve that task. They then have access to tools and applications in order to be able to go and complete that task. They then reflect on whether the output they have given actually results in what you've asked them to be able to do, and then you get your response. And we can think of this very much like little teams. So I'm going to have a look. This is our simulation for the day. So we're going to look at this in terms of general vibe coding, but also in terms of persistent AI agents that sit and work in your office. Essentially, there is 33 AI agents that I have that are persistent, that continuously work through doing tasks for my business. But we're going to have a look, and we're going to start by looking at the vibe coding side of it. So this is more your AI agents that are there to form a task when you want them to be able to do it. So the task I want to do today isn't particularly complicated. We're going to create a lead magnet for people so they can understand the environmental impact of AI. It's something I get a lot of questions on. So we're going to create a document that's going to be well researched, that's going to help people to know the ins and outs of the environmental impact of AI. So I have a prompt. I'm using VS Code and Claude Code connected together. And essentially, that is going to run this project. So what you're going to see here is our AI agents are going to have an orchestrator agent, one that is in control of the other agents, and they are going to spawn other agents to complete different tasks. So all I've done is put into my prompt window here that essentially this is what I want them to do. I want them to create this lead document. I want them to be able to create the researchers. I want them to be able to go and create the actual physical document as well. And they're all going to be able to do that on that space. So we're going to wait for our agent to spin up basically. And let's have a look if we can find our right terminal here. There we go. So this is now a reflection of the terminal that I have in front of me. So this is my terminal is essentially spawning these AI agents. They are essentially these little 8-bit characters reflect all of the different work and jobs that this AI agent is now going to do. So what you can see here is we have our orchestrator agent sitting in the corner, and every time it's spawning another AI agent, it is giving it a task to be able to do. So we have one AI agent at the moment that's looking at data center water research. We have one that's looking at power and carbon research. We have one that is looking at the US sitting story when it comes to AI. We've got one that's researching data center noise. We've got one that's looking at Singapore's data center purple pipe systems. Another one looking at balances and mitigations against some of these challenges. So essentially, every piece of research that the orchestrator agent wants to do, it is now spinning up an agent to be able to go and do it. And what you can see is each of those agents is completing those tasks on a computer. I'll make this a bit widescreen for a second. And what you can see is each of them are then going through, researching through the internet, going through to find that information. But we don't just need to be able to send out AI agents to be able to go and complete internet research. We can get them to create documents. We can get them to be able to work on applications through NTP protocols. If you have access to it, an AI can have access to it. So all of these AI agents at the moment are running on a server that sits in my cupboard, and they have access essentially to their own computer. And that means that anything I can do on a computer, they could go and do on that computer. What we're seeing is these AI agents now, as they have completed a task, and once they've done the research, they're then handing that information back to our orchestrator agent in the corner there. So that orchestrator agent is now back in charge of having that information to be able to go on and do the next step. Let me quickly switch over here. So what you can see is each time an agent completes that research, it goes to the orchestrator, it sends it back. And that doesn't just have to be a research task, it could be any kind of task. But because the first thing we're designing here is a lead magnet, that's what they're describing that they're doing. They're finding the information and passing that back through. Let's just quickly check on where live there. Yep, that's great. So this is a really useful way of when we're doing like one-off sessions. You can imagine that if you want to do a specific task, you don't need a team of agents that are sitting around all day looking at how to be able to help. We want to be able to have AI agents that are able to work on demand when we need them to be able to go and work. So they appear when we need them to do the specific things that we need them to be able to go and do. So we can see that all of our AI researchers are now coming back, sharing with our orchestrator that they've done the task, queuing up to give that information over and help us understand, help our orchestrator agent understand what to do next. Let's see what they've got next on their task list of what they're going to spin up. So we can see that from the AI agent's point of view, it now has all of the information that it needs to be able to kind of get working and work on being able to design this document. I'm going to come back to this room in a second because this is we're spinning up to do a specific task. That we're going to now go and look at some of the other ways that we can use AI agents as well. And we'll come back into this room a little bit later on. So I'm going to let's go to the first floor. So this is basically another layer of our AI office here, our little Pokemon office that we have going on with all our 8-bit characters. Each one of these characters represents an AI agent that is a persistent agent. And what I mean by that is it exists on a permanent basis doing specific roles and functions over and over. Now, it doesn't need to do them all the time. Most of these are probably idle at the moment because most of the time when I get my agents to do work, I get them to do it at 3 o'clock in the morning while I'm asleep. So everything that I need is there when I wake up in the morning. But essentially, they do everything from looking at the pipeline that I have, looking at potential leads, looking who signed up to the newsletter, if there's any speaking opportunities that have come about, if there's any contracts that the government has released, if anyone's looking for written or verbal evidence in select committees. They are working around the clock to be able to go and find that information, and then they send me that information every morning so I can take actions on it. But because they're persistent, they also have memory. So Shinji, who is our lead of this team, if I wanted to go and talk to them, I could go, what is our biggest success of this week? And this is pretty much the equivalent of a Slack channel for your AI agents. This is us being able to essentially work through being able to get our agents to go and complete tasks, understand what's going on. So we can see at the moment that Shinji has said, one of our clients, we've got a presentation schedule. That's one of our biggest wins that we've had from the rest of the week. Now I could give Shinji a task here. I could find out more information as we go through, but essentially that means that these agents are keeping constant track of what work is being done, how they're doing it, and we can get them to work as a team. What you can see is that there is a team meeting table here, and we have our agents have team meetings where they're able to share information with each other. And similar to how I would have it set up in a workplace, if you had employees in a workplace, you don't necessarily give an employee every single access to every single system. The same thing happens with AI agents. We create the specialisms. Some AI models work better with specific tasks than other ones do. So it makes sense to be able to have these agents with the tailored information we need. And I think that's something that you're going to see over the next couple of years, is language models that aren't really good at doing lots of general tasks, but are very good at doing specific tasks with a lot of authority. And that will mean that we get these better quality agents and better quality output, because the more general we make the AI model, the more general our answers become. So each of these agents are talkable, they run tasks, they're able to interact, they are persistent agents. Let's go back up to our vibe coding floor and see what's going on. So we have probably at the moment inactive because there's probably information that is waiting on from me. My ability to type and talk is non-existent. So essentially, I'm just looking through at the moment, and I can see that it's starting to outline what it wants to be able to go and do for this lead magnet, what kind of information it wants, the design that it wants to be able to go with, whether we've captured everything that we need to be able to capture. That's what it's essentially working through at the moment. So we should be able to see, more AI agents that are now coming into the space to be able to. At the moment, it's synthesizing all the data. So they're trying to figure out what's the best way to lay out this information as we come through. And essentially, this is how our AI agents operate in our digital spaces. They form these kind of employee tasks. You want to often give them job descriptions. You give them tasks that you want them to be able to do. And if you're thinking about the future of work, what you're really thinking about is, if you were to go through your job descriptions on your team at the moment, and you were to go, which one of these tasks is repeatable, involves a lot of text that you could teach an intern to do, those are going to be better suited to AI agents. Whereas when it comes to creativity, critical thinking, curiosity, those are all things that are really hard for machines to be able to replicate. So they're the kind of skills that you want to cultivate within your organization. Your learning development plan should be really focused on making human beings more human, rather than trying to do what we've done for an eon, which is essentially trying to turn people into working like machines. We treat people like we would treat machines, that they absorb information, they recite information, they regurgitate information, they repeat the information, they have to retain all of that information. Well, all of those things are things that AIs are going to do far better than human beings can. So what we want to be able to do is go, well, how do we get the best out of the fact that AI might be better with that kind of thinking, but we want to be able to make sure that we're getting the best out of people. And this is where things like research tasks, when it comes to being able to, gather information and sources, that bit normally takes us a lot of time, going through Google, flicking through all the results, trying to find the information that we want. But what we want to be able to do as a human being is to go back through that and start to be able to evaluate that, whether that is good content, whether it comes from a good source, whether we agree with what's there. I'm also going to switch my screen so you can see that these AI agents at the moment are also creating a document. So let me start sharing my other monitor. There we go. So what you'll be able to see here is our AI agents have just spun up a little application called Pencil, probably one of the most useful applications if you do anything on Canva in a day. Canva is basically the AI equivalent of Canva, but it's designed specifically for AI agents. So the whole purpose of it is to make it functional for AIs to be able to utilize it. Let me zoom out a bit so we can see when it starts getting to work on it. And what we should see is as it goes through that, it's going to start to come up with designs and stuff like that as we can work through. So and this is where you start to get that pairing. Well, hopefully what you can see as we're going through this is the majority of the time, obviously we're building this document, but me being able to give guidance, give the support, give the direction of what we want to be able to do is how we get really good results very quickly. So that is essentially the interaction that we have. A lot of people talk about what does it mean to manage teams that are going to be full of AI agents and human beings. And that's one of the things that you're going to see is that you're going to find that you're managing two types of intelligence here. I think Yuval Noah Harari talks about AI being alien intelligence rather than just artificial intelligence. It is about managing different types of intelligences and the strengths that those bring to your team and leveraging both of them. Let's have a look at our documents here. We can see that it's opened up. Let's see what we get in terms of putting some design in. I'm going to flick back to our agent office at the moment that we can see is also a lot of what's going on at the moment is preparing the next step. So it has all of the information, it has all of the content, it's waiting to be able to kind of put that all together. And let's go back onto our document here. There we go. We can start to see that our AI agent is using the tool to be able to build the document that we're looking to be able to do. So it's building the design, it's making sure that we have the whole information of why we've created this lead magnet is going to be applicable and in here. I'm also going to give it some direction on how we want this to be able to look. At the moment, it's going for a portrait, and I'm going, actually, normally I like my lead magnets to be in landscape, so I'm just going to tell it that. And then we should start to see our document appear as we're going through. As I said, I'm always happy to answer questions on these things. The joys of being able to have AI agents run in the background is that we are able to go and answer people's questions and communications as they come through. So hopefully, if anyone has any thoughts, any concerns about what's going on, it's the whole point of these things is to try and do our best to answer what questions that might be at the forefront of your mind. Because this is a new world. We're moving into a new space where AI automation does change the way that our workplaces work. And this is where you have to think of AI as more than just a tool that you're implementing within your organization. This is a whole new way of working. And if you think about how your organization's designed, it was designed for the industrial workforce. It was designed to essentially be in a situation where people filled the gaps in machine capabilities. And therefore, that's what our skills and training were aimed towards. Whereas what we're seeing now is we're obviously moving to a world where machines machine better than people do. So people need to people better than machines. And that's going to involve a lot of reorganization of your workforce, a lot of redesign of your workforce to be something that participates within a digital economy. Because the way that it participates in the digital economy is going to be very different than how it participates in an industrial economy. And this isn't a case of a tools list anymore. One of the things that comes up most frequently for organizations when I work with them is they go, Jamie, give me a list of tools. Give me a list of AI tools. And I think, why? Why? Because ultimately, what's hot today is not going to be what's hot tomorrow. And the skills that you need to train people are not on how to use all of these different AI applications. AI is an intent-driven interface. If you know what you want, you can go and get an AI to be able to go and create it. So you end up in a situation where if you're not having those conversations and you're not trying to redesign the front of the workforce, you're training people for these tools that could change very frequently. And the whole point of what makes them value is it erodes the technical capability that you need in order to be able to operate them. So that means that you want to make sure that people have the clarity of outcomes, that they're able to rely on things like subjective experiences. AIs don't have subjective experiences. They don't know why something won't work within your organization. they're only producing a statistically probable output. But if you know why a change project failed 5 years ago, that is the value that you bring to the table. You're going to be able to say, this is how this organization works because I have these experiences of it. Let's see what we can do to move things forward. You can see that our AI agents here are still going through a lot of page design. I think it's come up with 20 pages that it wants to be able to do for our lead document. So I'm going to leave it to continue doing that as we go through. But the point has been proven for what we'll be able to need to see today, which is we have our AI agents. They were able to do the research. They've started being able to create the document. Whether they'll be able to do it all within the time of this webinar is another question. But let's go back to our AI agent workforce here. And let me swap my screens on StreamYard. So once again, if we're looking at our AI agents, you can see with my organization, we have 33 agents that run the organization in the background. What you're going to see is that each of these floors has a bunch of teams that have different specialisms, that have different ways of being able to work. And one of the most useful things for me is I don't try to keep track of what every single agent's doing, but I do have a head of department in every office building, and each one has control of the agents that it operates. So every agent has a supervisor, and normally it uses a more advanced model to do it. And every morning I'll get a voice note from my AI agents that says, Jamie, these are the key things that you need to know. This is the information that we need. This is the approvals that you need to be able to give. This is the decisions that you have to be able to make. And that helps me be able to manage these AI agents while also making it not overwhelming. When I first started designing these, I'd have basically, we created an A-mail system, which is our equivalent of an email system for AI agents. And, you know, you're getting 10, 13, 14 emails every day. But actually, you don't need that because all of the information was essentially coming through at the time that you needed it to, but it wasn't being digested. So I use AIs to help with the digesting of that material. We have a great question here, which is, hi, Jamie, thanks for this super engaging and cool talk. On the touch of monthly and annual costs of running these agents, how many LLM models are involved here and what is the token cost? Fantastic question. So these AI agents, the majority of them run on Claude at the moment, and they're I utilize it as part of the Claude subscription, which is $150 a month. However, one thing that I would so cost-wise, it doesn't cost anything more than my normal usage of it. They just run in the background. They're utilizing my Claude subscription via the SDK that Claude has. However, that being said, they all have an AI server there as well. So I have a ThinkStation that has an NVIDIA Blackwell, which is one of the first GPUs that is designed specifically for AI models. And essentially, that is the quality of the models that I'm getting on there are getting closer and closer to the quality of models that you're used to getting from the Frontier bit. So the whole point of this design is, my belief is, compute is going to get a lot more expensive. Everything that you get at the moment through a Claude subscription or through ChatGPT is a subsidized cost. You're getting thousands of dollars worth of compute for hundreds of quid. And essentially, that will change. And at some point, you'll go, okay, the costs are probably going to catch up, which is why I have all of the compute and all of the capability that I need already bought out to be able to switch these models out when we need them. So I would say, although like beginning of this year, I was spending about 700 quid extra on subscriptions, but instead what I was doing is getting AI agents to just go and rebuild those applications specifically for my business. And that meant that I saved 700 quid a month, but I've got a Claude subscription, which is an extra 150 a month. Then what I can also say going forward is Claude is probably my one dependency that I have when it comes to AI. And I'll be in a position within the next 6 to 8 months to be able to have quality models that do exactly what they're doing at the moment, but being able to run them for free. So you do come to a situation where you're able to run these tasks, these functions on more and more local hardware. You don't have to have the most advanced models. Local AI models that you can run very cheaply, very easily. So yeah, that's what you're going to find from a token point of view and token usage. And because they're all doing specific tasks, like very specialized tasks, you don't have to have very high token costs if you can get models that you deliberately have that form the function that complete the task that you want to be able to complete. So it's a great way to mitigate against those rising costs of compute that you're likely to see. Hopefully that answers your question, and thank you very much for putting it in there. It's a very interesting one, and definitely part of a wider conversation when it comes to looking at the price of things, not just in dollars, but in terms of compute as well. Fantastic. So that's all of the content that I've got prepared for today. Let's go jump back onto our document and have a quick look at how that's getting on. Let me switch my screens over. Great. And we have a further follow-up comment there. Thanks for a great answer. Thank you for such a great question. I really appreciate it. It always helps the conversations go smoother when there's questions there to be able to answer. And it makes me look like I know what I'm talking about. So this is our document that our AIs have been working on, the lead magnet document that they've been designing. So we can see that it's coming up with content as it goes through, given our calculations, how thirsty are our AIs, what's the impact of that, what's the power bill. So one of the things that I'll be able to do with this now is we'll be able to take this document, I'll put it on the website, I'll utilize it as a lead magnet while also helping people to understand the environmental impact of AI. And it's just something that's running in the background. As you've seen, I'm doing a webinar at the same time as that happening. So it allows me to be able to achieve more, to do the thing that is the human-centric part of doing a webinar, building connections with you, answering your questions, as well as while also achieving different results as well on other tasks that need doing. So I hope you found that interesting and a little bit different and possibly something that you haven't seen before. If you're interested in this kind of stuff and you want to learn more, I'm Jamie Bykov-Brett on all social channels. You can follow me on YouTube, Instagram, TikTok, LinkedIn, wherever you get your content come through. Yeah, definitely feel free to follow. And if you're looking for support at your organization to be able to kind of implement AI, or you're a small business and you want to know what AI can do for you, then definitely feel free to reach out. But thank you so much for all of your time today. Thank you for your energy. Thank you for your questions. And I look forward to catching you all very, very soon. So thanks for joining. See you next time.